If you're watching this, it's no coincidence. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that certain revelations arrive precisely when we need them most. And what I'm about to share with you today could completely transform the energy of your home in a matter of hours. There's an object Florence Scovel Shinn secretly placed at her home's entrance every day. It wasn't an expensive amulet, not an imported crystal, nothing that cost a fortune. It's something you already have at home, but 99% of people use it entirely wrong. Florence discovered this in 1908, during one of the most frightening experiences of her life. She'd just moved into a new home in New York City, and from day one, something was terribly wrong. Plants died inexplicably, mirrors fogged over, and every time someone entered that house, they left with an inexplicable headache. Neighbors whispered about the house. They said the previous occupant had died under very strange circumstances. Florence didn't believe in superstitions, but she couldn't ignore what was happening. Then she received an unexpected visit. An elderly woman she'd never seen before, yet who seemed to know every detail of her life. The woman simply said, "You need to learn to close the doors that shouldn't be open, and open those that should remain open." Before leaving, the woman left a small object on Florence's table. It was just a key, an ordinary golden key, the kind that doesn't unlock any door. But something engraved on it made Florence's heart race, ancient symbols she instantly recognized. "Every entrance has its protection," the woman said. "But you need to teach your home to recognize who can enter and who must stay outside." Florence thought the woman was speaking metaphorically. But that very night, something extraordinary happened. She placed the key in a small dish beside her front door. And for the first time in weeks, she slept in deep peace. The next day, the plant showed signs of life. The mirrors returned to normal. And most importantly, Florence felt her home was finally hers. But the real discovery came 2 months later. Florence was studying ancient texts when she found references to an age-old practice. Sacred temples always had a guardian object at the entrance. It wasn't decoration. It was pure spiritual technology. She realized the key wasn't just a key. It was a symbol of authority. When you consciously place a specific object at your home's entrance, you're declaring to the universe, "I have authority over this space. I decide what energies can enter here." Florence began experimenting. She tested different objects, different positions, different decrees, and discovered something that changed her understanding of spiritual protection forever. The object itself doesn't matter as much as the consciousness with which you place it. Florence used the golden key, but she taught her friends to use a specific coin. Others used a small stone. One even used an old button that had belonged to her grandmother. What truly matters is the ritual of placement and the decree you make. Florence developed a specific protocol she religiously followed every day, and the results were astounding. People visiting her home commented on the place's special energy. Business deals closed more easily in her presence. Even strangers felt inexplicably comfortable around her. But something even deeper was happening. Florence realized that when you consciously protect your home, you're actually protecting your subconscious mind. Your home is the physical extension of your psyche. When negative energies invade your space, they invade your thoughts. That's why some people feel constantly anxious at home. That's why some houses drain the energy of those who enter them. That's why some homes seem to attract only problems and arguments. Florence wrote in her private journal, An unprotected home is an unprotected mind. An unprotected mind is a life adrift. The protocol she developed has 3 distinct phases, and each phase activates a different aspect of your spiritual authority. In the first phase, you choose your guardian object. It can be anything. But Florence recommended something small, something meaningful to you, something you can touch every day. She preferred metal objects because, according to her, metal conducts not only electricity, but also spiritual intention. But perhaps the most striking case was a woman whose apartment seemed to attract only problematic neighbors. After she applied Florence's method, the toxic neighbors spontaneously moved out, replaced by collaborative and kind people. Florence realized she was working with profound universal laws. The law of attraction doesn't just work with thoughts, it works with spaces too. When you consciously take authority over your physical environment, you attract people and circumstances that respect that authority. If this knowledge resonates with you, if you feel your home needs deeper protection, the universe is giving you a sign. Florence always said, when the right knowledge comes to you, you have 24 hours to apply it. After that, the opportunity may dissipate. And now I'm going to teach you the complete protocol Florence developed. The same one she used for decades. The same one that transformed her home into a fortress of peace and prosperity. First, you need to understand that Florence discovered 3 different types of guardian objects, each with a specific function. What I'm about to teach you was never published in any of her official books. It was in personal diaries that only came to light decades after her death. The first type of object Florence called a sentinel. This is the main object, visible at the entrance. Its function is to announce your authority over the space. Florence used a golden key, but she discovered that ancient coins worked even better, especially silver or copper coins. The secret is that the object must have been touched by many hands over time. That's why ancient coins are powerful. They carry the energy of countless intentions. When you consecrate them, you're redirecting all that energy to serve the protection of your home. The second type Florence called the silent guardian. This one was hidden, known only to you. She placed it in a small cavity she made in the door jamb. It was always something natural. A small stone, a crystal, or even a special seed. The silent guardian's function is different. While the sentinel announces, the silent guardian observes. Florence believed it could read the intentions of people approaching the house and send subtle signals to your intuition. Florence wrote in her diary, "Many times I know whether or not to answer the door before I even look to see who's there. My silent guardian whispers to my soul." The third type was the most mysterious. Florence called it the divine bridge. This object never stayed in the house. It stayed with her, in her pocket or purse. It was always something very small. A button, a small stone, a ring with no commercial value. The divine bridge connected Florence to the house's protection even when she was away. When she felt something was wrong at home, she touched the object and made a specific decree. And often she'd arrive home to discover that a problem had indeed been avoided. Once, Florence was at a social gathering when she felt a sudden urgency to touch her divine bridge and decree protection over her home. When she got home, she discovered that thieves had tried to break into the front door, but gave up without apparent explanation. But Florence's complete protocol goes beyond objects. She developed a system of decrees and visualizations that amplified the power of the guardians. Every morning, when leaving home. Florence performed a ritual that lasted only 2 minutes, but which she considered more important than any formal prayer. She first touched the sentinel and said, "I declare my authority over this space. Only that which serves the highest good may dwell here." Then she discreetly touched the place where the silent guardian was and whispered, "Observe and protect. Let my intuition know if something needs my attention." And lastly, she held the divine bridge in her pocket and decreed, "I am always connected to the protection of my home. Wherever I am, my home remains safe." At night, upon returning, the ritual was reversed. Florence first thanked the divine bridge. "I thank you for the constant connection." Then she touched the silent guardian's location. "I thank you for the constant vigilance." And finally, she touched the sentinel. "I thank you for the protection of my kingdom of peace." Florence discovered that gratitude upon return was as important as the decree upon leaving. "Gratitude seals the protection," she wrote. "Decree opens the channel. Gratitude keeps it open." But there was still a fourth dimension in Florence's system, a dimension she revealed only to her closest friends. Florence discovered that certain times of day amplified the power of the guardian objects. She called these times power windows. And the most interesting thing is that these windows changed with the moon and the seasons. During the new moon, the most powerful window was between 10 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Florence always made a special decree at this time, asking for the protection to be renewed and strengthened for the next lunar cycle. During the full moon, the window was between 2 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. At this time, Florence didn't make decrees of protection, but of purification. She asked that any negative energy that had managed to enter be transmuted into light. Florence recorded that following this lunar system, the effectiveness of protection increased dramatically. She began to notice that problems resolved themselves, that toxic people naturally distanced themselves, and that opportunities arose with much greater frequency. One of Florence's most fascinating discoveries was about the power of specific words. He discovered that certain words in Aramaic, when spoken in conjunction with touching the guardian objects, created a special vibration. The word Melech, which means king or supreme authority, was pronounced when touching the sentinel. The word Shoma, which means guardian or watchman, was whispered when touching the silent guardian's location. And the word Kesha, which means connection, was mentally pronounced while holding the divine bridge. Florence discovered these words in a vision she had during deep meditation. A luminous figure showed her that these were the words used by ancient priests to consecrate temples, and that their power had not been lost over time. But perhaps Florence's most revolutionary discovery was about what she called family resonance. Florence noticed that when a person applied the protocol correctly, the whole family began to behave differently, even without consciously knowing what was happening. Husbands who came home stressed began to calm down as soon as they crossed the threshold. Children who were restless became more centered inside the house. Even pets became more balanced. Florence explained this through the law of resonance. "When you raise the vibration of a space," she wrote, "everything inhabiting it naturally adjusts to the higher frequency. It's pure spiritual physics." One of her friends reported applying the protocol without telling anyone in the family. Within 2 weeks, her husband spontaneously commented, "I don't know what happened, but our house has become a sanctuary. I can't wait to come home every day." Their children started bringing more friends over. Neighbors became friendlier. Even service providers commented on the house's good energy. Florence realized she'd discovered something that went far beyond personal protection. It was a method to transform any space into a radiating station of harmony and prosperity. If you're feeling a special energy while listening to this, if something within you is recognizing the truth of these revelations, Florence would say this is the sign you're ready to apply the protocol. She always emphasized that true spiritual knowledge awakens recognition, not doubt. When your soul recognizes a truth, she said, your body feels an expansion. When your mind recognizes a truth, it illuminates. This is the infallible test. Florence deeply believed in spiritual generosity. So, if this knowledge is truly resonating with you, if you feel gratitude for receiving these revelations, she would tell you to express that gratitude through super thanks. Not for me, but for the channel that allowed this information to reach you precisely when you needed it most. And now, the complete protocol that can transform your home into a fortress of peace in 24 hours. Step 1. Choose your sentinel. It could be an antique coin, a special key, a small sculpture, any small object that holds significance for you. The important thing is that it's something you can touch every day. Step 2. Find your sacred space. Florence recommended a small table or sideboard near the main entrance. Place the sentinel in a visible, but not a obvious location. It could be on a small tray, in a pretty dish, or simply resting on a clean surface. Step 3. Consecrate your sentinel. Hold the object in both hands, close your eyes, and pronounce these exact words. Melech, I declare this object holds my divine authority over this space. Through it, only energies serving my highest good may enter here. So be it. It is done. Step 4. Choose your silent guardian. It should be something natural. A small stone, a crystal, a shell, a seed. Something that came from the earth or the sea. Hide it near the entrance, under a rug, in a planta, in a small crack. Step 5. Consecrate your silent guardian. Discreetly touch the spot where it's hidden and whisper, Shoma, observe and protect. Let my intuition know if something needs my attention. Step 6. Choose your divine bridge. Something very small that you can always carry. A special button, a small polished stone, a simple pendant. Put it in your pocket or purse. Step 7. Consecrate your divine bridge. Hold the object and visualize the word, Kesher. I am always connected with the protection of my home. Wherever I am, my home remains safe. Step 8. Practice the daily ritual. When leaving, touch the sentinel, the silent guardian's location, and the divine bridge in your pocket, making the protection decrees. Upon returning, do the same movement, but with gratitude. Step 9. Observe the windows of power. Check the lunar calendar and make special decrees at the times Florence discovered. New moon at 10:10:30 p.m. Full moon at 2:2:30 p.m. Step 10. Maintain the practice for 21 consecutive days. Florence discovered this is the time needed for the protection to fully establish itself and begin to function automatically. Remember, Florence always said that signs that the protocol is working appear quickly. You may notice that you feel calmer at home, that problems resolve more easily, that toxic people naturally avoid your house, or that opportunities begin to arise more frequently. But the clearest sign is when other people comment on the special energy of your home. When that happens, you'll know you've created what Florence created, a sanctuary of peace and prosperity. Florence also discovered a secret aspect of the protocol she called family tuning. When you apply the complete system, not only does your home transform, you also become a magnet for people who vibrate at the same frequency of protection and prosperity. One of Florence's closest friends reported something extraordinary. After applying the protocol for 3 weeks, she began to notice that she was attracting a different kind of person into her life. More conscious people, more generous, more spiritually aligned. Florence explained, when you protect your sacred space, you automatically align with the frequency of divine protection, and that frequency attracts other people who are also on that vibration. This works because, according to Florence, when you practice the daily ritual of home protection, you're actually training your energy to recognize and attract only what serves your highest good. It's as if you develop a super-refined spiritual radar. Florence also discovered that the protocol had an unexpected effect on financial abundance. Many of the women she mentored reported that, after establishing home protection, income opportunities began to appear naturally. One woman who applied the method got an unexpected salary increase 3 weeks later. Another began receiving freelance job offers she'd never received before. A third discovered she was entitled to an inheritance the family didn't know existed. Florence perceived that this wasn't coincidence. When you declare authority over your space, she wrote, the universe understands that you're ready to exercise authority over other areas of your life as well. But there was still an element of Florence's system that she revealed only in the last years of her life, and which I consider the most powerful of all. Florence discovered that certain combinations of guardian objects created manifestation portals. When you correctly aligned the Sentinel, the Silent Guardian, and the Divine Bridge, and made the decrees during the lunar windows of power, something extraordinary happened. Her deepest desires began to manifest with surprising speed. Florence systematically tested this with a group of 12 women over 6 months. All applied the complete protocol, including the lunar practices. The documented results were astounding. One woman trying to conceive for 3 years succeeded in just 2 months. Another, whose business was struggling, saw sales triple in 4 months. A third, embroiled in a complex legal battle, had her case unexpectedly resolved in her favor. But perhaps the most striking case was that of a woman who had been trying for years to sell an inherited property. It was an old house in a difficult location that no one wanted to buy. After she applied Florence's protocol, 3 interested buyers appeared in the same week, and she sold it for more than she expected. Florence realized she had uncovered something that went beyond spiritual protection. It was a system of conscious co-creation with universal forces. When you protect your sacred space, she wrote in her final journal, you are telling the universe, I know who I am, I know what I deserve, and I have the authority to create my reality. And the universe always responds to this kind of conscious declaration. But Florence always emphasized that the protocol only works if you follow all the steps consistently. It's not magic, she said. It's spiritual physics. Following half the protocol yields half the results. Florence also discovered that certain attitudes amplified the power of the guardian objects. The first and most important was what she called serene expectation. You must apply the protocol with complete certainty that it will work, but without anxiety about the results. Plant the seed with confidence, she said, but don't keep digging to see if it sprouted. The second attitude was advance gratitude. Florence taught to thank for the protection and manifestations before you even see them happen. Advanced gratitude is the fuel of manifestation, she wrote. The third attitude was loving detachment. You should desire the transformations, but not cling to them desperately. When you hold something too tightly, Florence explained, you prevent it from coming to you. Florence discovered that these three attitudes, combined with the physical protocol of the guardian objects, created what she called a state of magnetic receptivity. In this state, you naturally attract everything aligned with your highest good and repel everything that doesn't serve you. One of Florence's last discoveries was about the power of group practice. When several people applied the protocol simultaneously, the effect multiplied exponentially. She organized a group of 7 women who applied the protocol in the same week. All reported much faster and more intense results than when practicing alone. Florence realized that a collective attunement was happening, amplifying the individual power of each one. When conscious people unite in a common intention, she wrote, they create a force that is greater than the sum of their individual parts. Therefore, if you decide to apply the protocol, Florence would recommend that you share this information with people you know are ready. Not with skeptics or people who will question, but with people you feel are on the same spiritual quest as you. Florence believed that true spiritual knowledge should circulate freely among conscious people. Spiritual hoarding, as she called it, blocks the flow of abundance in the life of those who practice it. Now, if you've come this far and feel that this knowledge has reached you at the right time, Florence would say you should pay attention to the signs that will appear in the next 24 hours. You might find the perfect object for your sentinel unexpectedly. Someone might mention something about home protection. You might have a meaningful dream. It might simply be a gentle feeling of urgency to begin right away. Florence always said, the universe confirms when you are on the right path. It gives you subtle but unmistakable signs. And if you are feeling gratitude for having received this knowledge, if something within you recognizes the truth of what I have shared, Florence would tell you to honor that feeling. The super thanks is a way to express this gratitude and to keep the energy channel open so that more revelations can reach you. Remember, Florence discovered that expressed gratitude multiplies the blessings received. It's not about the monetary value. It's about recognizing the spiritual value of what you have received. Now tell me in the comments, what object immediately came to mind when I talked about choosing the sentinel? Your intuition already knows what the right object is. Share in the comments what the first object you thought of was.